Hey everyone, Reid Henrichs at Valor. And what we're going to talk about in this video today is what would I do, what would you do if firearms training was banned in the United States? Let's go ahead and get started. The reason why I'm doing this video is because it was brought to my attention by a friend of mine. I know that Jared at Guns and Gadgets, if you haven't checked his channel out, I highly recommend it. But he brought this to my attention maybe a week or two ago. And, you know, before I do a video, I try to think about what to say because I know people rely on accurate information. They want a based take on things. That's kind of what people have been here a long time have come to rely on. So I looked at my data on the videos sometimes, guys, and I realized that, you know, about 2/3 of you watching the videos aren't subscribed to the channel. So if you do me a solid and do that, I'd appreciate it very much, because what that does is it makes the orcs at YouTube, then it makes them recommend our videos so that more people see it. And I want more people like you watching this video to see the channel and the content, and maybe even some lefties as well, because nothing makes me excited more than getting their blood pressure up and have a little meltdown and their cognitive dissonance sometimes. So go ahead and do me a solid, and if you don't mind, go ahead and subscribe to that channel, please. All right, so meat and potatoes of the video. What would I do if firearms training was banned in the United States? Would I throw in the towel and, you know, cut sling load and cut bait, or so to speak? Would I just stop doing what I'm doing and then just, you know, say meekly, oh, okay, well, the law's the law, so we can't train people anymore, so I'm just going to have to go, you know, I'm going to have to go find, you know, making tiddlywinks or something. No, here's what I would do. I would do the exact same thing that I'm doing now. People would come onto our property here in East Tennessee, and we would teach them firearms, and we would teach them how to prevail during deadly force. Pretty much the exact same thing that I've done for the last 12 years of my life. So being that this is our 10th year of being in business at Valor Ridge, very proud of the fact that we've trained thousands of people in how to protect themselves and their families, and the emails, the personal phone calls, the personal face-to-face conversations of people that have protected their family, unfortunately, but fortunately have prevailed, is worth it. So what would I do if they ban firearms training? If some Democrats and rhinos decided, hey, you know, we're not going to allow firearms training because it's dangerous to the public good and all this other stuff. I'd like to attack this on a twofold path. First and foremost, we've known throughout the decades that there are people that would like to ban firearms in this country, or at least severely restrict access to them via the actual tool itself, whether it's the pistol and the rifle, or by ammunition restrictions such as background checks, or just banning ammunition outright, just thinking that they're your overlord. So that's number one. Number two, I would like to address this. There has never been an amendment that's gotten any serious traction that would repeal the Second Amendment, but that doesn't mean that these people, these evil collectivists, wouldn't try to subvert it by another way. For example, the Second Amendment really doesn't deal with individual firearms ownership. I mean, that was around before the United States was even a nation. I mean, how do you think that we fought the Revolutionary War? We weren't officially recognized as a nation by anyone, yet somehow people still had individual firearms. So the Second Amendment wasn't even ratified until 1791. So all that time before, Revolution started 1775. So all the time before that, you know, what was going on? People had individual firearms. They had it during the colonies, when we were colonies. They had it when the United States wasn't even the United States, where we were just a colony of Britain. So individual firearms ownership really isn't the purpose of the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment, if you read the text, especially the text of the Second Amendment and also the Militia Act of 1791-92, if you read those works, what you'll find is that they are concerned, our founders were concerned about individual proficiency with the firearms to be used in a tactical environment. So not only did they want people, the Second Amendment, not only does the Second Amendment deal with individual firearms of ownership, but that's not the point. The point is proficiency, not only in terms of marksmanship, gun handling, but also tactics. You know, the purpose of the militia is to secure our states, secure our communities, secure our nation, and secure individual household. I mean, that is the purpose of the militia. And proficiency with firearms means you know how to handle them, you know how to shoot, you know how to use tactics. So that's the purpose of the Second Amendment. So any attempt to ban training is a de facto ban on the Second Amendment without officially repealing it. To me, that's treasonous. Why is it treasonous? Because The Second Amendment involves the security of the United States. And I mean that plural, not individual. The United States is not a single entity. The United States means there are 50 states united for the concept of federalism. And what that means is restricting the Second Amendment is going to make communities less safe. It's going to aid and abet our enemies, people that are trying to subvert this nation, not only domestically, but internationally as well. So that's why it would be treasonous. Secondly, when we're talking about the individual ownership of firearms, we're talking about a right that precedes the United States. This is a natural right. You have a right to life and the right to protect it. Fortunately for human beings, we're good at manufacturing tools, which means that we're good at using tools that help enable to sustain life. Many leftists will look at firearms ownership as life-taking. They'll look at firearms ownership as, oh, you own a gun, you must really want to kill somebody. Or, oh, you own a gun, what are you afraid of? Well, my answer to both those questions is I look at firearms as a tool that sustains life. I look at firearms ownership as tools that is not a life-taking implement, but it's life-saving equipment. And that's the mental disconnect between people that believe in freedom, people that believe in choice, rather than force or subversion or absolute coercion to do something. There's a vast mental disconnect between the way people view individual choice. People on the left, collectivists, people that believe in big government, they will look at individual choice as a bad thing. People need to be compelled. People need to be forced. Whereas people that believe in freedom, people that believe in liberty, they will look at individual choice as, hey, we're responsible people. Not everybody's responsible, but a lot of people are responsible, and choice, therefore, empowers people as opposed to endangers people. I view firearms as a necessary component to not only individual liberty, but a free condition, a free state. And I don't mean state as in a political entity. I mean a free state of being. So the Second Amendment, when it talks about well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, okay, I believe our founders meant that as an individual condition, an individual state of being, rather than a political entity. And so what we've got to look at here is any effort to curtail individual firearms ownership and individual proficiency not only endangers natural rights, but it endangers the actual existence of the United States of America, and it endangers your individual state of being. So what we do here at Valor is train people to prevail against violent criminals in every society, whether that's some low-life drug dealer or some low-life person bent on harming you and your family. But what we also train people to do is prevail against the most violent criminals of all. And sometimes those criminals are under the banner, under the carte blanche protection of the state. When you look at history and when you look at things in general, just the historical flow of things, the greatest atrocities have not been committed in a society where there's less government. The greatest atrocities have been committed where the state is the all-powerful being, where the individual is protected under the state to do such things. So when we look at our responsibility to train people with firearms, it's not only the micro level, individuals, but it's macro, as in making sure that we maintain a free state of being. If you found the information in the video helpful, subscribe to the channel as I asked you to do early in the video. And if you want to learn how to protect yourself and your family, come on up to Valor and we can help you. This is Reid Henrichs with Valor reminding you the lessons that we learn are written on the tombstones of others. We'll see you on the ridge.